the best advice I can give to anybody is to focus on aligning your body frame and strengthening your body into alignment. Strengthen your body into alignment.
I want to do a deep dive into everything that it is that you're putting out there. But before we get to that, you came in with this weird green powder that you're expecting me to drink. I don't know what is this?
Okay. So I got to give you a little backstory, right? I've had issues with the rhythm of my heart. And I think when I was young, I was like 18, I was dumb. I did a cycle of steroids to get big. And then I did Ritalin for my ADD, right? At the same time. And I think that started a heart arrhythmia, right? So the rhythm my heart can get off. And over the years, I've learned alcohol is just a trigger. All the studies, 1 glass of red wine. I'm like, that study does not apply to me.
Wow.
1 glass of red wine and then I work out, I could feel some arrhythmia in the heart. So I don't drink.
What does that feel like?
It can feel like a gurgling in the heart.
Wow.
Like a gurgling. It can also feel like the general skip beats. That's pretty, or off rhythm beats. It's pretty common feelings. I've actually had a procedure done called an ablation where they go in there and they zap it.
Wow. And
the scary thing when you have somebody else perform a surgery on you is you're kind of at fate for their work. And like I help people overcome pain, and most often they don't need surgery. And so people that do choose a surgery for the back, whatever it is, you almost feel a degree of, I won't say helplessness, because you're hoping what they did worked. You still don't have the control. And that was a big motivation for me starting Move You. I'm like, there's a plan to help fix your pain that works. I don't know a plan for my heart. There's no heart arrhythmia plan to fix that I knew of. So I had the procedure done and I'm better now. But back to the kratom is that it's simply, I started looking into ways. I just wanted like to loosen up a little bit. I run high octane always. So I'm always looking for like a little downer or like a way to chill. And I like alcohol, but it triggers me. So what do? I try kava because I spent some time in Fiji. And the Fijians, those are the happiest people I've ever experienced in my life. And they just slam kava. The guys drink kava all night. And so I tried, kava's good. It's not as noticeable as this. And so this is like kratom, very controversial. It's illegal in certain states.
Wow.
I personally think it's because the FDA is not making money off of it.
Wouldn't surprise me.
It's a ground up leaf that's dried. That's all it is. And there's a few types. There's a white, a red, and a green. So the red is more of like a downer, like a euphoric downer, but it's also, I'm testing it for pain relief because many people, our bodies are designed to move through a full range of motion. They're designed to move through a full range. Many people though, they experience pain in the long term because their bodies are stuck in a certain position or their body excessively moves into a position, right? And so these people need to move their body out of that position they've been stuck in into a more neutral position, but oftentimes pain can get in the way. It's not damaging them, but I'm experimenting with this red kratom because it's a pain reliever as well, and I'm testing that for myself because if I can help people get a little relief, but use it only to give them some temporary pain relief so their body can now move through that range of motion and train in that range of motion, now we're doing good in the world. Not getting people stuck on a pain reliever, which does nothing long term.
I mean, nothing good.
Nothing good.
Yeah.
There's almost no evidence on opioid. All these opioid addiction for pain, there's almost no evidence on there's very little evidence that supports that that's an effective treatment for back pain long term.
Well, you're just putting a Band-Aid on the pain.
You're just putting your mask in it.
Yeah.
And you're feeling better, so now you're gonna push yourself more into the pain?
Yeah.
Because you actually don't feel it?
Yeah. And they're also dangerous.
They're dangerous.
Yeah, they're super addiction prone. There was, I did a podcast recently with Sean Stevenson. He was talking about how opioid use and COVID morbidity and mortality are just, there's like this huge overlap.
Oh.
Well, because these drugs suppress the respiratory system.
Oh, right. Right. Because it doesn't choose, especially muscle relaxers. It doesn't choose the muscles.
Yeah.
The low back muscles, all muscles, respiratory, huge set of our muscles.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Makes sense.
So kratom.
So you're taking it for the first time. I've been experimenting with it for 2 months.
This isn't going to fuck me up, right?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No guarantees.
Well, okay. This is my first time tasting it.
It's not that good. Okay, you got to suck it up. It's not that flavorful. So I give you a green kratom, which is the most popular. It's like and if I got your dosage right on that one, you should feel in like 20 minutes a total, like an actual euphoric, positive lift in your mood.
Wow.
It's not something like CBD where you're like, I think it's doing something. This does something. Even if you don't like it, you go, okay, something's happening.
I'm scared. Well, because I was telling you, my relationship with psychoactive substances is very tenuous, I think is the word, because I don't like the way that I feel. I don't like my experience of the world when I'm on THC,
right,
which is like the quote unquote gatekeeper, easiest drug,
right,
to get into. It's like the most basal level drug, the drug that most people start their experimentation with drugs using.
The gateway drug.
Did I just sound like a total boomer? I'm just saying that like my THC makes me feel so antisocial that it's kind of like made me very just reluctant to try any other thing.
Does it bring you? Have you experimented now with the edibles now that they're dosed? Have you tried those?
I'll do an edible occasionally before bed. But if I take it and for whatever reason I don't have the opportunity, like I wouldn't take it without knowing for sure that I'm going right to bed after taking it. But I mean, in that use case, it does help me like turn off my brain a little bit. Like if I'm, anxious, if my mind is still racing from like things that I have to do, I have to do the next day, it helps for that.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well, I want to say this is not similar to THC.
Awesome.
But like THC, I also feel antisocial on it, especially if I go in public or like a social gathering. Not good. And even it affects my sport performance, like golf. I'll play like shit. If I'm playing terrible golf, I won't even take THC to even try to because it's just only going to go down from there. It's only going to go down. Well, I think my point I was making there was, but THC for me brings out, like, it helps me tap into deep creativity. It helps me. I spend a lot of my time, and I really enjoy taking complex body movements and spending crazy benders, like midnight till 8 a.m, simplifying one concept down to something tiny. And what I learned though was that when something's so simple, when you say something so simple, it seems like it's always been that way. And then people don't question it. And so I used to like simplify something down and people will be like, yeah, of course it's that way. And I'm like, no, you don't understand how long it took me to do it. Now I accept that the goal is to, if you say it so simply, it seems like it always should be that way. And that's the gap that I feel with my profession, which is, I kind of have both, right? I have a medical healthcare background. I'm a chiropractor. So I've worked with over 15,000 patients in person. Like it's been since the year 2000. So since you and I were both 18, that's when I started working with patients. And
that's crazy.
So there's that. But the path that I found in chiropractic, healthcare, medical, even chiropractic for the most part, is to identify, categorize symptoms, put them in buckets, offer treatments to relieve pain. Insurance pays that. And so I didn't feel I left healthcare because I didn't feel the solution for people existed within that paradigm. So the paradigm that I see the solution and that we've seen the most success with the solution for people to fix their bodies lies in this is the wording. It's controlled movement, body awareness, moving in alignment, aligning your frames with your muscles, like connecting deeply to your body, and then using progressive exercises as a tool to gain that awareness and strength. And so that's the tool that I found most effective to help guide people out. And my medical side is what I can understand people's symptoms, diagnoses, MRIs, x-rays, CAT scans, all the nerve impression, like prescribe that. I can do that there. But the solution that I don't even think lies within the profession. They just spend the most money on they just spend all their money on the fastest relief possible. It's just not very lasting.
Yeah. Well, you're so good at what you do. And one of the other things that I love about you, which I forgot to mention earlier, which is like kind of the most obvious aspect of your craft is that you're funny. You're like hilarious. You like suck people in because it's like all your content is just like, it's cheeky. You've got this amazing like personality that comes through in the content. And that's not easy. Like there are very few people. Yeah. You have very few like competitors.
Well, I feel surreal. I really appreciate
Yeah.
that. Here I am. I mean, you have such an incredibly successful podcast. So inspirational. I love your Instagram. And then you invite me up here and give me compliments like that.
Thanks, man.
I appreciate that.
I mean
Thank you.
I mean it.
I can see that.
So the kratom, this is my second sip.
You got like 4 grams. I think
it tastes like, I'm trying to think of what it tastes like. It's like really tanniny. Like it tastes like a really strong, like black tea almost.
I would say that.
Something like that. Yeah, there's definitely like a tea like flavor.
It's supposed to be like, if you mix it with like citrus, it's supposed to be a little more effective and more flavorful.
Interesting.
But so back to the comedy. Okay, so I got to share this with you. One of my favorite compliments ever is because if I would have done this all over again, like maybe I would have been a stand-up comedian, and then or maybe I actually have possible plans on doing that next.
You want to do that? That's something that you're interested in?
Yes. I have probably an hour of material over like the last 10 years that I've saved.
Are you interested or are you committed?
Oh, I'm interested.
You're interested.
Oh, I don't want to commit, because here's the thing. If I commit to that, I'm going to go obsessive over it, and then I'll lose focus I'm not complete with my path right now. My project right now it's incomplete.
All right.
I don't want to take on something new yet.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah.
But this is something that you're thinking about.
Yeah. So I got a compliment from Jerry Seinfeld one time, actually.
No way. Tell me that story.
So his wife was a fan of Move You and reposting our stuff. And then I asked her one time, I go, is Jerry watching anything? Months go by. It was Christmas Eve when I got a message back. And she said, and I have it printed in the house. She goes, Jerry's enjoying your videos. He says, quote, that guy is funny and clever. I'm like, I got a funny and clever from Jerry? Like, dude, I'm in tears. But it's great to know, like, I've had some rough times in the last year or so, like just with like restructuring the business, and I had to fall out of a partnership, and I made mistakes with that. And it just like took me away from the focus of helping people fix their bodies. And I'm focused on I got a business restructuring and like, how do I get this thing and grow it now that and so all that time, it can be really hard. And then, so it's nice to see that, like you print it off and it's like, those are things like reminders in hard times. Like, oh, okay.
That's insane.
This guy thinks.
Well, you have over 1 million subscribers or followers on Instagram. There must be a number of like,
Trevor Noah,
super famous people.
Trevor Noah, he's a fan of Move You. Awesome dude.
That's amazing.
Sebastian Maniscalco. These are 2 of my favorite comedians. I mean, Trevor Noah, phenomenal comedian. If you guys don't have a chance to see him, he's so clean. In his book, I forget the name of his book exactly. Trevor Noah's book. Incredible story about him growing up in South Africa. It's called Born a Crime. Sebastian Maniscalco, pure Italian dude. The most animated comedian out there right now. Phenomenal comedian. But he's dead. So I always, if I get comments from comedians, I'm always like, really? Oh, okay. I'm doing something right.
Yeah, they're both awesome.
Because I've got a message, and you get it. It's like there's a philosophy, a philosophical connection that I really, my goal, one thing in life is for people to connect to their bodies with their mind in an everlasting way that they carry with them throughout their day-to-day life. I believe that's a solution. But if I just say that, it's boring. But if I add anatomy art, okay. If I try to add a little sass joke, all right. It was like the Steve Martin's masterclass. I don't know if you've ever taken that one.
No.
He was the legendary comedian in the 70s. He's got a masterclass.
Wait, so what is that? You can take it online. It's
you know
online?
Masterclass? You have to know Masterclass.
I think I've heard of it.
It's celebrities teaching courses.
Their craft.
It's awesome.
Wow.
You can look at that. It's a good model too. I think it's a good business model. Who knows? But Steve Martin says, he goes, look, if I'm telling a joke, I could just tell the joke and some people laugh. But if I'm juggling balls and tell the joke, well, you got more people that are interested. Well, if fire comes in, there's more. Kevin Hart fire. But I got from that is I'm like, okay, the more things I could put in this video, but while the art is still delivering, still keeping the message first and foremost and having those as surrounding tools for engagement, then that's the sweet spot. But it takes a lot of time. It takes significant time to make all of those, the anatomy art and certain lighting, the editing, all that takes time to do that. And so it just, it comes to things about how many posts do you want to get out? How much time do you want to put into each one of those?
Yeah.
But I've always loved comedy. So
That's awesome. And you a lot of the stuff that you shoot and put up on your Instagram, you do with your wife.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome.
She's getting really good. She's getting extremely talented with her movement. So she actually has 17 degrees of scoliosis.
Wow.
What's interesting is scoliosis is a word that's thrown around, it's overused and it's abused. A lot of chiropractors will tell people they have scoliosis. The truth is virtually everybody has some curvature of their spine. The definition of scoliosis is more than 15 degrees of lateral curvature of the spine, which you have to measure via x-ray. You can see it by the eye if it's way more than that. But there's two types of scoliosis. There's a structural and a functional scoliosis. Structural means the structure of your body. It's like this house here. If this house that we're in here, if the foundation was built with an angle, this whole house would be angled. But you wouldn't want to straighten the house. I don't know if I can apply that to that. But it's built. You want to learn your body. People will feel the best in their bodies if they understand their foundational build and build from that. In my wife's case, she has structural scoliosis. Her fifth vertebra on her back is actually built. It looks more like a triangle than it does a rectangle. So it causes her lower spine to go one way. And the body is so beautiful compensator. So if your lower spine goes to the left, well, your upper spine is going to go to the right. And then your head's going to go to the left. The body is such a beautiful compensator. And so then there's a functional scoliosis, which means your body, you shouldn't have scoliosis. All the bones, everything's structurally fine, but it's scoliosis. And but the point is with my wife, Katie, is she actually quit working out years ago and started doing the yoga because of her back. And so I didn't know that until when I met her, I started learning it. But now she's been like taking the knowledge that I've taught her. Specifically, she's loving this transverse abdominis, which is the deepest core muscle. But she's been putting it to use in her body, and she's just transformed her body. It's incredible what she's done.
Wow.
But it's and yeah, I just get so much satisfaction from watching people like make the connection. And that's why I was talking in the podcast coming up here, is because hopefully we have an opportunity to go a little deeper with movement for people too, so they can understand what they should be feeling actually, and what's possible in their body.
Yeah. I mean, the motto of Move You is fix your shit.
We're one of the first companies ever to trademark a curse word.
Are you really?
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome. It's great.
You know what? I just said it in a couple of videos and people started repeating it. And at first I was like, it's kind of abrasive, and but no matter where I am, from the airport, wherever, people are like, yo, fix your shit. And what I've grown to really love about that, because I just randomly said, I've literally spent hundreds and thousands of hours creating like taglines and slogans, and I'll make them, and then I'll put a trademark behind them, and then I put them in the world, it just fucking falls flat. And of course, I just randomly say, fix your shit. And people are like, fix it. I'm like, I put no time into that. It just came out like a knee-jerk reaction.
It's so good. Well, therein lies your genius.
Well, here's the truth about fix your shit, and which is what I really love and what everyone needs to know, is that many people, especially people that are limited by chronic pain, back pain is the number one cause of disability in the world. Out of all the ones, it's low back pain.
Wow.
It is preventable. I mean, the World Health Organization attributes 97% of pain to lifestyle related. That means 97% of it's just the way you live your life. And what do you do in your life? You move during your life. How you move is so incredibly important. It's not the exercise. It's not the stretch. It's why you're doing. You're like training in the exercise for life. It's like practice. It's like you're kicking that bag out there. You're practicing for a fight, right? And that's just like doing a plank or doing a bridge. Like you're training it. You're learning to posterior tilt your pelvis, to pull it back, to feel that glute contraction. So when you stand up, your hip is more of a neutral position and your glutes active. So when you walk, you're more connected with it. And when you run and when you stand there, when you want to attract a partner, you know how to position yourself. Like that's the synaptic daily minute by minute connection that everybody in the world needs to feel to feel amazing. And it exists within every person to do that. But the truth is many people go, the car accident hurt me. I fell off a bike, my sports injury, that chiropractor hurt me. And it's all external. Fix your shit is right back at you in a funny way. Fix your shit always gets a smile and always gets somebody looking down the ground a little bit. Because like shit. Because the answer is within. You know, I did a 10-day silent meditation retreat a year and a half ago. Have you done something like that?
Is it Vipassana? Is that what that's called? Yeah. I've never, but I have friends that have done it.
It's very much, very, very similar to the philosophy. And I was wondering why we have so many fans from India. I'm like, oh, this makes so much sense. The philosophy of going within. And many people try to seek solutions. They go, I need this stretch. The thing's external, this stretch, this product, this, that. And like most things in life, it's within. And then I always teach people to control the movement that they have first before trying to like break free into this new range of motion, this new stretch. It's all related. It's all helpful. And everyone's in their own part of their journey. Some people are just very, very frustrated and go, look, I'm going to do whatever it takes. Tell me what to do. Those people I send to the Move You programs. Those are all the programs I created. Those people succeed. Most people aren't, they don't need the programs. I want them to learn one dose at a time. And what were we even talking about? Just so you know, I go out here, now I'm here. And I'm like, how did we get here?
You got into space. Well, I feel like there's a Steve Martin line. I think it's him. He said, I took a trip to the Bahamas. I think that was him.
I don't remember that one.
But okay, so my question is, people have, like me, it was a gym accident that hurt my lower back.
External to internal, right.
It was for some people, maybe it was a car accident.
Yes.
But it's not necessarily those incidents that lead to the injuries, right?
Often
it's like
not.
everything that's leading up to those events. It's the way that you sit at your desk. It's the way that you're sitting in your car, right?
I'll give you a really good example. The number one injury that I've heard attributed to pain is a deadlift. Number one. And many doctors say don't deadlift anymore. The McKinsey Institute, probably 20 years ago, put out a study, and they found that the deadlift is essentially a movement called a hip hinge. And a hip hinge is where you stand when you're standing upright. The proper hip hinge is where your spine is in a neutral aligned position, and the muscles around the spine are braced to hold the spine in position. And then now the downward motion of the hip hinge, which is what's called a deadlift, or lifting or picking something off the ground, is where the whole entire upper torso folds down at an angle, and all of the movement occurs around the hip joint, the ball and socket. And now the bottom range of motion of that, it stops whenever the hamstrings are underneath the most length. That's how most people, the bottom stops. And if their hands can't reach the bottom by then, the only way to get to the bottom is to bend the knees to lower the entire body down at whatever angle the spine is at to the ground. So the hip hinge can be done whether you're standing and just hinge one degree, or if you hinge a full deadlift. Well, the McKinsey Institute found that we hip hinge 3,000 times a day, 3,000. Now, in my clinical practice, one thing I took particular interest in is the pelvic angle of people who saw me. Most people saw me with back pain. Most people are athletes. And so I have calipers. There's calipers that exist. It's pretty common, the clinical calipers to measure this pelvic angle. But I don't know who's measured more. I measured about 5,000 people's pelvic angle. No matter which you came in, I measured pelvic angle. And so on a male, let's go back to this male that hurt himself in deadlift. Well, an average male pelvic tilt, from my experience of people that are pain-free, is about 8 to 10 degrees of tilt, meaning your pelvis is going to be, if your hands are on your hips, you're going to just arch your back just a little bit. Well, actually, I take that back. If you're standing in a neutral position, 8 to 10 degrees is normal. If you tuck your tailbone all the way under and you look in a mirror and your belt line is flat, well, that's a 0 degree tilt. So it's the side from the side view. But if you arch your back like an Instagram booty picture, that can be up to 30 degrees of pelvic tilt.
That's posterior pelvic tilt.
That's right? Anterior.
Oh, anterior.
Right.
When you're arching your butt back?
Yeah. I call it extension. Let's make it easy.
Anterior because I guess your upper torso is like tilting forward, right?
Anterior because no one's made this fucking term more simple yet. Really what's occurring though, if we really break it down, that's an extension. The low back is extending or overarching. So anterior tilt is an overarching of the low back, and posterior tilt is a flattening of the low back.
Got it.
So back to what your question is that people think it's one time. So this person hurts his back deadlifting. This person comes and sees me. My data, I forget I haven't looked at it in quite a bit, but about 85% of people that show up to me with a disc bulge, disc herniation are in posterior tilt. That's how they stand. So these people are already flat in the back. They're going into the deadlift flat in their back. The deadlift is accelerating. It's accelerating the wear and tear on their spine because there's weight. There's weight on top of improper mechanics. This is how they appear. This person can't bend from their hips. They can't hip hinge. They bend forward fold from their low back. These people have ginormous low back extensor muscles. Their low back extensor muscles are like biceps because they're not using their ball and socket joint. The strongest muscle in the body per size, well, you call me this, actually the strongest one. The glutes are extremely strong muscles. And the glutes are designed The hip flexors pull your body down into the bottom of a hip hinge, and your glutes and hamstrings return your body upright. So this person that goes, I hurt my back in a deadlift, his back muscles are 2 to 3 times the size they should be, and his glutes are 2 to 3 times under the size.
Wow.
So now we just draw the law. Okay, we're hip hinging improperly. This one deadlift, that deadlift didn't cause that person to have overdeveloped muscles. This is from likely missing a developmental period in their life. They likely missed an athletic developmental period where they learned the hip hinge. The opposite is true with somebody with overarching. The 2 most common things, you're either tucked, you're flat back, or you're overarched. 70% of people that have seen me present in that position.
Wow.
Overextend. However, the McKinsey Institute, I don't know if you heard of McKinsey, McKinsey Institute, they're like the first organization ever in like the 70s to like bring like mainstream techniques to clinicians to help people fix their back pain. But theirs was all extension based. Like pretty much they built their whole programs on the disc herniation. Because a disc, what occurs with a disc is if you have a neutral curve in your back, which is a neutral curve is kind of like a little less than a banana, like a straight banana. You get a banana, it's not perfectly straight, but it's a straighter banana than you're used to. So this straightish banana is like the neutral curve of your low back. Well, when you bend down forward, what it does, it actually compresses all these vertebrae. You got 5 of them. And so when you're bending forward, what's happening is the space in the front of the vertebra is closing. It's pushing the disc down in the front, but then the weak spot of the disc is in the back. So as it's compressing the front, a bulge comes out the back of the disc.
Wow.
Some people have disc bulges in the front, but there's no nerves in the front to really feel it. Do you know what nerve is right behind? What the primary nerve that goes behind the discs in the low back? Well, that's going to be your sciatic nerve for simplicity.
I was going to say that, but I don't want to sound stupid. But that's just the most common nerve that I associate with like low back pain.
So the disc comes back and then it'll hit that. And then people go, well, is it too late for me? I'm like, it's never too late. Just like anything in life, like the best time to start is always now. And what was the question again?
Just that. Well, what are the everyday kind of like movement patterns that set us up for having overly developed back extensor muscles, underdeveloped glute muscles? Good question.
Most of my work though is on. Most of my personal work and effort has been on helping individuals improve their spinal and body alignment through exercise and not study the historical data. So it's easy to say, and it's maybe, if you say, oh, we're in a seated lifestyle. So when we're seated, many times people will just, if you sag, you go into a posterior tilt and flatten your back. That's one way. Other people, but regardless, sitting tightens up your hip flexors because your hips are flexed. A muscle is tight. A bicep is most shortened during the top of a curl.
Right.
Your hip flexor, if you're sitting, is already flexed. So the body doesn't like sag.
That's because your legs to your torso are at a 90-degree angle. So the hip flexor it's basically like the bicep analogy. It's like
it is.
Yep. It's compressed.
It is. It's like a bicep analogy where the further you pull your knee to your chest, you might as well just do a bicep curl when your knee comes up, and that's hip flexor. And if you want to lengthen all the way up, the only difference with the bicep and the hip flexor is the hip flexor is designed to go, it'll stretch to about 10 degrees past straight, where the bicep stops because the elbow hits.
Right.
Your hip flexor, that's why when you do hip flexor stretch, you kind of like keep one knee on the ground and shift your hips forward, and so the back leg moves behind you a little bit more.
Right.
But my point is with that is when people stand with tight hip flexors, the hip flexors reverse the role when they stand. So when they stand based on the orientation, when they contract, they actually increase the arch in your low back. It is a complex muscle with that. It's complex because we can't see it. It goes very deep. It's very deep. It goes underneath the abdomen, underneath the guts, and attached to the front of the spine through the abdominals. So it's very hard for people to see, just like the shoulder blades are very hard for people to see. The shoulder blade movement is the missing link for millions of people with shoulder pain, is actually learning to control that. But once again, muscles that are hard to see are hard to understand too. So I think I don't think I've simplified that hip flexor to what I will eventually.
Well, so basically it's like sitting really is in a way the new smoking. Sitting is at least one of the root causes.
Huge root cause. And there's a book called Switch, How to Change When Change is Hard. Have you ever heard this one?
It rings a bell.
It's a book about it really focuses on the people who succeed. What do they do? And the take home that I got from that is the simplest thing to do is change our environment. It's very simple to do that. There's a one-time upfront cost and time frame to change our environment, but it provides everlasting effects for years, decades to come. Fixing your body, for example, like fixing disc pain, it may take you 6 months of steady work and progress, of strengthening your body, of lengthening muscles, of strengthening muscles, of getting connected. 6 months of steady work to achieve that position of being and living pain free. But yet, if you switch to a stand-up desk, it might take you an Amazon click, assembling it and putting it up on the table. But once it's done, it's done.
Yeah.
And so stand-up desks, I mean, I'm such a proponent of even bar height desks. You're up. You're more likely to move. You're more likely to walk. You're more likely to stand than you sit on a stool. But that is a fantastic tool. I mean, especially now with our digital age, is people are working on the computer. I work on the computer.
Yeah.
You do too.
Yeah.
We're sitting desk right now. What's going on here?
There's a company called, I believe it's called Ergo Driven. Do you know this company?
Haven't heard of it.
They, I believe they make like a car. If you just have like a normal desk, it's the cheapest, like lowest barrier to entry way to convert your regular desk, your standard desk, to a standing desk. It's a cardboard thing that comes in the mail. And it's got these like IKEA-like instructions that tell you how to assemble this thing. And it basically elevates whatever's on your desk. You can like stand and work on it and put your laptop up on this like cardboard thing.
I used to tell people to get a cardboard box. If you really can't afford it, get a cardboard box.
I did that. I was writing my first book, Genius Foods, and I turned my kitchen table into a standing desk just using boxes.
Boxes.
Yeah, so easy.
It's right there. Just like this, creatively come with. I grew up without much money, so I think creativity happens. You go, okay, I can't afford this. What can I do?
When you're broke, being broke it's like one of the best. It's like a double-edged sword, right? I mean, it sucks to be broke, but it's also so great because it's one of the most powerful motivating forces there is.
So, and you know what though? Looking back at my life, some of my greatest moments are when I'm broke.
Yeah,
and being broke also makes it gives me a comfort to know that if I had to go back to that, I've done that once. I can do it again.
Yeah. Yeah, I was when I wrote Genius Foods, I was I didn't really have an income. I was just like trying to figure it all out. I mean, I was super excited at the opportunity to write a book, but yeah, it's powerful.
How long did it take you?
It took me about a year to write the manuscript, and then another year to edit it.
A year to write.
But that was like my full-time job. Like writing the book was like, this is my shot.
Oh,
and yeah, I just dedicated my. Interestingly, I was going to bring this up when we were talking about about drugs. Nobody knows this, but actually, my first time ever experimenting with microdosing psilocybin mushrooms. Mm-hmm. I started, and it's not something that I did on a regular basis or anything. I'm talking about like 2, 3, maybe 4 times, but was the year during which I was writing Genius Foods, which is super interesting. I think that's a really powerful sort of like creative lubricant.
Oh wait, so go on. So psilocybin was some juice for you to write.
A little bit. It wasn't the juice to write. It was more because I wasn't writing while I was experimenting with them.
Right.
But I was experimenting with them more socially. But at that time, I was really excited about my work, about writing this book, right. And so I would be out at gatherings, whether dinners or parties, the handful of times that I was messing with it with psilocybin, and when I'm excited about something, I love to talk about it.
Yeah.
So I would start talking about what it is, the science, and everything that I was doing while I was like very mildly under the influence
right.
of psilocybin, which we know allows disparate regions of the brain to talk to one another. Regions of the brain communicate that aren't normally in touch, essentially, and that's thought to be sort of like a neural. When they see that on imaging, it's thought to be sort of like a neural correlate to like creativity. All these like parts of the brain are linking up and so
to integrate. It's like and then the creativity is integrating those two together.
Yeah. And so I noticed at the time that I was able to like come up on the fly with like metaphors and stuff, like ways of explaining science that that like really stuck with me, that I was like, wow, that's actually like a really great way to think about, what ketones, the purpose that ketones serve to the the metabolically ailing brain. And yada yada, like all
like you'd be saying it out loud, then you'd be watching yourself in person going, I'm pretty good. That was a good one.
Yeah, it would be like very meta. Like I'd be as it would be coming out of my mouth, from sort of from like above, from like a bird's eye view, I'd be able to like have the ability to like realize that was actually a really great, a novel way of like thinking about this concept. And then I would write it down, or I would remember it. And then, hours later or the next day after the psilocybin effect had long worn off, I would still find it to be like brilliant.
Right.
Whereas like with THC, I think there's like this stereotype that people come up with all these ideas when under the influence of THC, and then they wake up in the morning and everything that they jotted down is just like garbage. I don't know. That's like a stereotype that
I'm like, that was a man. Look at my notes, and it's like a log cabin I drew. What's that mean?
Yeah.
What was I?
Yeah. So I don't know, just my own, I don't think I've shared that before, but that's definitely the year that I wrote that book, which obviously it did very well, and I'm super proud of it. That was the year that I was also like for the first time in my life experimenting with those kinds of psychoactive substances.
How often?
Not super often. I'm talking about like once a month maybe.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And again, like super low dose, not the kind of, and I'm not recommending that people go out and experiment with this stuff, because these are very powerful substances that ought to be respected and used in the appropriate set and setting. But just for me, I was also, to my credit at the time, I was also writing a little bit about these substances. Like in Genius Foods, there is a section where I talk about, various drugs and how they affect the brain and their mechanisms and whatnot. So I had a curiosity about this substance in particular, because I knew how different it was from THC, which is something that I knew
you didn't really care for.
Yeah.
Isn't it interesting though, how there's I do psychedelic mushrooms, people are like, ooh, no, it's psilocybin. It's psilocybin.
Psilocybin, yeah.
It's just so much nicer to say. You're so much more professional. Button up.
It's an interesting.
Oh, yes, I've tried psilocybin, and it helped me bring out. Oh, that makes sense.
Flows off the tongue.
It just flows off the tongue. THC.
Yeah.
Smoke the devil's grass. No, that's for the no. I dabble in a little THC.
Yeah.
It's a little more professional.
Going back to you. Okay, so strengthening our hip flexors. I was actually doing the bicycle today, which is like an ab workout.
Yeah.
And I was like feeling it in the hip flexors. Is that a move that
it's training mostly your hip flexors?
Interesting.
Yeah. So hip flexors are, many people mistaken abdominal strengthening for hip flexor, because your abdominal muscles, your hip flexors essentially go directly under your abdominal muscles. So like let's say you're hanging and you're in the gym, and let's just say you're hanging onto a pull-up bar. Okay?
Yeah.
And you bring your legs up in front of you straight. It's abs, but it's mostly hip flexor.
Wow. So leg lifts when you're on the machine.
Totally.
Also, you've got your elbows propped up.
Yep.
And you're lifting up your legs.
Sit-ups. I haven't seen the side-by-side data, but I'm going to go and say 60% hip flexor strength, 40% abdominal strength.
Wow.
Yeah, regular.
But I feel like these are exercises that people are doing because everybody wants like better abs. So is like over developing our hip flexors like a problem?
Well, the right now the what's hot right now is tight hip flexors. It's hot. People are talking about it. It's the thing. It's the thing that they need. I know I'm at back pain. Tight hip flexors. Everyone's always asking about the So Right. So on Joe Rogan's podcast, the So Right. How is this thing? I got the So Right. It's it's all right. It's so right. It's the best product out there I know to hit the hip flexor. The challenge with the hip flexor is it's really only accessible like down where you're below your belt line. That's the only place that's really accessible.
Like your groin.
Your groin, a little above the groin, but after it goes up in the abdominal region, then it becomes virtually inaccessible. The only way I've really found it accessible, the more children a woman has had, the more tolerant she is to me pushing my hand through her abdominals and pinning her hip flexor to her spine from the front.
Wow.
Right. And that's like active release technique. But to answer your question for everybody out there, hip flexors are important. They're misunderstood by people. They think they're training abs, so they're often training hip flexors and abs. If someone has an overarch, hyperlordosis, overextension of the back. Now, pain that can come with that from being in that position prolonged is sacroiliac joint pain. That's pain in the dimples of the low back. Hip impingement, which is actually a pinching pain in the groin that many people say is their hip flexor, yet I've seen very few people in my career that I have diagnosed with hip flexor pain. I think it's more rare than people. I think they get tight, but I really haven't seen many. I think it's very much the minority is hip flexor pain. But so now the symptoms of a tight hip flexor are, if you look yourself in the mirror, you get this big arch in your low back. And okay, if you have a big arch, your hip flexor is likely tight. Now, to stretch that hip flexor, it's a really great stretch. Everyone should be stretching their hip flexor every single day, every workout. It's fantastic to do. And I really only believe you only need one stretch. I believe there's one golden stretch, but it's technical to do it right. The best hip flexor stretch I know is you've probably seen it, where you take let's say you're going to put your right knee on the ground, and then you're going to put your left foot on the ground, and you're going to be in a half kneeling. So your back leg's on the ground, your thighs up on your left leg, okay? And then what you're going to do is, this is what people do, is they shift their hips forward towards their front leg. And then what they'll do is they usually stop the stretch there. Now there's two hip flexor muscles. There's the iliacus and the psoas. They're different. That'll stretch the iliacus. The psoas is actually more likely to be problematic than this tiny little iliacus the psoas is. So to get the psoas, then what most people do is they'll get their right arm up and they side bend their body. And that's what to do. You side bend your body away from the leg that's back, because the hip flexor attaches to your low spine. So you want to create to stretch anything, you want to create the most distance. So you want to take the one end of the muscle, take it as far as you can one way, and where it attaches the other way, and take it completely the opposite direction. That's to get the most length in a muscle, anywhere in the body. So what's usually missed, though, with the hip flexor is the most important move, which is going to be where you tuck your tailbone underneath. So you're in that position, you put your hands on your hips, and then what you want to do is get your tailbone and go into posterior tilt. Some of you might know, but you actually go into posterior tilt prior to shifting your weight forward. So you get on your back knee, you get your left foot up, you square your hips, and then you tuck your tailbone under as far as you can, maximally. You'll feel your glutes contract. That's how you know you're doing it right, because your glutes posterior tilt your pelvis. Many people go, I have anterior tilt, where your glutes are the muscles that pull it into alignment. So then you do that movement, and then what do you occur? Then you shift your body weight forward while keeping that back leg planted. And then lastly, your right arm goes up and you straight side bend to the left. That is the only stretch that I think people needs to know in the hip flexor. You can do it anywhere. It takes no equipment whatsoever. And it's the most effective one that I've given people over the years to stretch it.
Wow, the golden stretch.
That's a golden stretch, but it comes with a caveat. And the caveat is that, and people need to know this, is that from my experience, stretching does not produce lasting results regarding the alignment of your body. So the deep philosophy that I believe is the future, and I think it's to come. I think right now people are on the wave. They have pain. They go, what's tight, what's weak, and that's kind of like off of like Mike Boyle's method on the. It was Mike Boyle, Greg Cook. These guys created this like stability mobility model. Very informative, fantastic. You truly understand like standing on the shoulders of greatness. I mean, I totally feel that way. It's like even myself getting message out. If it wasn't for Instagram, like what would I even have? So it really it's a collective. But I think people right now are at this phase of like, they want to stretch the tight and strengthen the weak, and the glutes are weak and strengthen the glutes. And these are all true, but I believe the future is going to be strengthening your body alignment, aligning your body with your muscles. There's a difference between strengthening your muscles and aligning your body with your muscles. For example, for your glutes, many people out there, it's another hot thing, weak glutes, super hot, super true. Many people are an anterior pelvic tilt, even sometimes posterior pelvic tilt, big weak glutes, and weak glutes do a lot more than just put your back in an arch. The glutes are actually the primary muscle that outwardly rotates your thigh. And so when you're doing a lunge or any kind of stepping or walking, if that glute's weak, that whole thigh is going to rotate inward and the knee buckles inward. And now that also trickles down to the foot. And sometimes the foot is the cause, where the foot will flatten, and then now the big toe goes the opposite direction. It's a pattern. It's a pattern that people fall into. So what I'm getting at with this hip flexor thing is not only when you're in anterior tilt, your hip flexor is tight. You can stretch that hip flexor. You're probably going to feel good for a bit. But the best advice I can give to anybody is to focus on aligning your body frame and strengthening your body into alignment. Strengthen your body into alignment. It's an intention of moving your body. Like when you're doing anterior and posterior tilt, you're actually changing your frame. You're taking your hips and you're tucking your hips under, which flattens your low back. And then you go the other way, which arches your low back. There is a sweet spot, middle neutral position. It's like this euphoric, central aligned position that I believe exists within every body. And that sweet spot, once found, clicks, and it's a breakthrough, and it lasts a lifetime. Oh my God, that feels so much better there. And then the goal becomes, then we fall back out of our patterns. Of these people about the hip flexor, they're going to fall back into this big swooping curve in their back, even if you don't train for a couple months. This is me too, by the way. I fall in that category. My right knee buckles down, it causes my right hip to drop. However, when you focus on the structure of your body, okay, when I outwardly rotate my thigh, that levels my hip from the bottom. And then by focusing on doing bridges and deadlifts, but focusing on tucking my tailbone under and reducing that curve from my back, it's strengthening my glutes, but it's putting my body into an aligned position like a car. And that is the sweet spot. There's a group called, I want to give them credit for a term that they never took to the masses yet. And it's just such a beautiful term. It's called joint centration, which is the Institute of, it'll come to me. But joint centration is this position of every joint in your body, your hip joint, every joint in your back, every joint in your shoulder blade. It's a position of alignment with the joint. And that what that means is that the ligaments, the muscles around that joint are in equal tension. It's an equal tug of war. Shoulder blade, for example, many people talk about tight shoulder blades. An aligned shoulder blade is one that's not pulled all the way down and not shrugged all the way up, but one that's in the middle. And that's only one plane of alignment. What that means is your lower trapezius and your upper trapezius are equally pulling each other. And when that occurs, there's a harmony that exists between the two. And the two are relaxed and at appropriate tension. Problems occur when their shoulder shrugs up. And now they're going to try to focus instead on strengthening the weak muscle, but stretching the tight constant. It becomes a never-ending chase. They're stretching all day, every day. And it becomes like a just short-term relief only. But that strengthening your body alignment and aligning your frame and learning your own body alignment is what I believe the future of. And it's the key for nearly everybody who experiences chronic pain to free themselves.
Wow. Fascinating. In terms of like injuries that you most frequently see, are there gender differences? Because we were talking about how weak collectively our glutes tend to be. But, there's that stereotype. Women go to the gym, they train their glutes.
Yep.
Men go to the gym, they train their upper bodies.
Yep.
So do women tend to be kind of better off in that department? Do you see mostly the injuries associated with weak glutes in men?
Men more disc related issues, more issues with their quadratus lumborum. And I'm speaking just with the low back. The low back is my passion. That's my favorite area of the body to help. I've spent most of my time in there. But
do you have low back pain?
I definitely deal with chronic SI joint pain, sacroiliac joint pain. It's in the dimple of the low back. Now I've been in this profession for 20 years. So I've never allowed myself to get in a chronic position. I could feel it. But yes, SI joint pain for sure for me. And that means two things. It means number one, it means that I'm moving into extension with my hip. I have too much extension in my low back because extension compresses joints. But for comparing men and women, from my own measurements that I've taken, is that of the pelvis alone, a man is generally has pelvic tilt in the normal range of about 8 degrees on the right side and 10 on the left. And what's fascinating is every single person I've measured in the normal has a 2-degree variant between side to side. Always a little more extension on the left side than the right. Women actually go up to 10 to 12 degrees. So their normal was more, their natural position is more extended. And see the challenge that occur with women then, now that's a very extended position, which is one of weak abs, weak glutes. Like these are the superficial things that people chase to fix this. Those are true though. And so women, from my experiences, they definitely present more with joint pain. You guys think overextension of the low back, big sway back, joint pain, tucked underneath, muscle disc pain. It tends to be, there's a pretty good correlation on that one. So women, more joint stuff. And then the challenge occur with women as well. You get pregnancy. Well, that overextension position, if you throw a guy, you throw a beer belly on that, it's going to throw him in more extension. And a woman, you throw a baby on, it's the same thing. And now those abdominal muscles are weakened. They're in an extended state. And doesn't mean because the baby comes out that they go back. It hasn't been my specialty to work with postnatal, but we have Dr. Brittany Eller. She's our pelvic floor specialist at MoveU. So we have a whole pelvic floor program that is incredible. I believe it's our most well put together program to date, specifically to help pelvic floor and pressure control to relieve that tension on the low back and also to help repair muscles that are caused from pregnancy.
So in terms of like injury proofing your body for the long haul, I mean, I want to live for as long as I can, disability free, but I love fitness. I love going to the gym. Fitness is a big part of my life. What are the things that we could be doing? Each of us.
Okay. I'm going to go simple. I'm going to give a simple explanation. Then I'm going to try to go a little deeper for that one. What are the simple things that we all should be doing? So the human body moves in there's 8 planes that it moves in. And so I've created a new methodology that I'm going to launch at the beginning of the year. Basically, it builds on everything I've already created. And I've broken the body down into 5 movements that are a must. Okay, 5 movements that are absolute must. And I'm not talking about muscles to strengthen. I'm talking about movements to strengthen. You strengthen a movement the right way, all the muscles follow. All of the muscles follow when you train the movement properly. It's a no-brainer then. You don't need to focus on, because many times you could train the muscle. I could tell you to do planks, but you know what? I have a surface EMG unit that measures muscle activity. I've put dozens of people on this EMG. They do a plank, have 0 ab activation.
What?
None.
Where is their activation?
Low back.
Low back, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
What are the mistakes that they're making in the plank that are causing that?
Well, the most common mistake people make is not to consciously contract their abs. But so I'll make it even easier. When you're in a plank position, the most simple thing I'd say that following a gymnastic style plank is going to give you the most activation. So when you're in a plank position, then let's say we're on our hands, not our forearms. Okay, I'm in a high plank position.
Is it better to be on your hands? I usually do them on my forearms, like on my elbows.
I definitely don't want to say there's a better and worse. I think you'll get more. If you're on your forearms, you get a little bit more of a downward slope of your spine. And if your hands, you got a little more upward slope. I personally train them on my hands. I do, because I feel like I have more connection to my shoulder blades. But what people should be doing in a plank is their hands underneath their shoulders. That's fine. Their feet shoulder width apart. Fine. No problem there. All good. And now the first thing that people need to be doing in a plank, the first thing that they do is one of the 5 movement skills is that we teach is called a shoulder blade scoop. It's a powerful movement and likely the only true movement that is like I believe revolutionary and new. Everything else, there's a stretch, but I just haven't seen anybody put the scoop in. But what it is starting with scoop. So if you're in a plank position, what you want to do is start with your shoulder blades. You need to actually press your shoulder blades around your ribs towards your nipples. They have to move around the ribs. Okay. And so the cheap way to do that, the quick way to do it is that I found is you're going to be in the plank position and you touch your upper back, like touch the upper back. And now you visualize your spine. And now you want to push with your hands, push your entire spine up to the sky as high as you can. You want to elevate like a UFO, elevate your entire spine. You don't want to push your ass up. You don't want to push your shoulder. You want to elevate your entire spine together. What's doing is you're contracting your serratus anterior, which is quite possibly the most overlooked muscle with the shoulder. It contracts it. That muscle pulls your shoulder blades around your ribs. So now your shoulder blades are in position. And now you're actually more set up to use your abdominals. Your second position you're going to do is while you're in that position, you're going to very simply draw your belly button to your spine. That's going to activate your transverse abdominis. If not, your stomach just hangs. Your transverse abdominis muscle is the muscle that holds all of your internal organs in place, and it also creates pressure in your abdominal. And the right pressure in your abdominal region actually decompresses your spine.
Wow.
So now you pull the transverse into place. Okay, we got that in. Then what you're going to do is you're going to touch your xiphoid, your star bone, your solar plexus. I don't even know the generic term for this. It's called the xiphoid. It's a cool name.
Is that what it's called? Yeah, it is cool. It is cool.
Xiphoid. Okay, so then what you're going to do is you're actually going to draw that xiphoid. You're going to pull that all the way down towards your crotch. Basically, you're flexing your ribs down.
Wow. And this is still while you're in that plank.
That's upper abdominals. And And I'm just teaching people, this is for people who want to spend less time in a plank and do more. For those of you that want to spend 3 minutes in a plank, all the power to you. I'm showing you how to do 3-minute plank and get the most out of it in 26 seconds. Okay.
Wow.
Okay. Lastly, you're going to get your tailbone. You're going to draw your tailbone underneath you and up towards your chin. That puts you in posterior tilt. And move you, it's called a double flex. Try it with me. So you're going to tuck your tailbone under and you're going to pull your ribs down with it all the way. You're going to draw your ribs down, Max. Keep pulling them down without your shoulders, right? Now go back into a big extend. Now pull them down again. Ribs pull down, tail tucks underneath, belly button's drawn in. That right there is the goal. I mean, we're planking to strengthen our abs. I think most people are doing for. That's why most people do this.
Yeah.
Ab strength. Well, that's how you activate it the most.
Are you messing up your back at all when you do that? Because it feels like I'm compressing. It's a compressive.
It is
movement on the spine.
It's changing the position of your spine from a neutral spine. You could do a neutral spine plank. It's totally fine to do a neutral spine plank. This is a gymnastic style plank where you are actually curving. But remember the abdominals. When the abdominals fully contract properly, your spine isn't neutral anymore. Like a full complete bicep curl is till it stops, right? That's until your hand comes up to your shoulder and stops. That plank I just showed you how to do, that's the complete contraction of the abdominals. That's how you completely contract it. You can do it in a neutral spine without changing it, which I do recommend for many people who are like trying to fix their body of pain. Because some people are already in like too tucked of a position. They have the disc issues. If they go in that, they're actually putting themselves further in a position that they already spend too much time in. That's the plank. But you asked about the movements. I kind of went through some there.
Did we go through one?
So you asked about the things that people need to be doing.
Yes.
Number one. So I've broken the body down for simple. I keep trying to make things so simple for people, right?
You do.
I really hope so. But I'm going a little deeper with you because I have an opportunity. I appreciate it.
We like it.
On the social channels, I stay pretty superficial and I stay very simple. I'm just trying to go like deep with people here.
I like it. I'm learning. I don't know, about this shit.
So I've broken the body down into 5.
Ask me about macros. That's what I know about. Or, freaking protein.
That biochem, dude, that was the hardest thing for me on the planet to know that. I have no idea. If you don't mind, I'll reach out to you, especially help me get a protein compound right now, trying to gain some muscle mass.
We can help you with that.
Good. But number one is, for simplicity purposes, it's called a core brace. Everyone needs to be bracing their core. What core bracing is when your spine is in a neutral aligned position. So you got a little arch in your low back, you got a little arch in your upper back. And then what you're doing is you're then taking a breath through your stomach, all the way in, then pulling your belly button to your spine, flexing your ribs down a little bit. That's a braced core position. So now all of the muscles of the core are active. Now that position, that core brace can be trained in a plank. You can train that in a deadlift, in a squat. And I mean, if I just give you exercises, it's gonna be like push-ups, rows, squats, deadlifts, planks, bridges, standing rotations. Like I can give the exercise, but this has already been done before. This has been said.
But it seems like that's also something you can do like while waiting in line to check out at the grocery, right? Or
precisely.
Like standing at your desk.
That is it. That's it. That's 100%. You're getting it. And that's the message that everyone needs to know is like, you get it. Here's how you know you get it though. If you walk around and cannot help people's posture, if you can't help but be like, oh my goodness, look at the sway back. I'm like, that girl, that ass, that is not her ass. That is major anterior pelvic tilt. Can't fool me. When you're seeing people's posture around, you get it yourself because it's the way they're carrying them throughout life. The core brace is an alignment drill to improve your posture. Your back's in a neutral position. Your abdominals are contracted during this. You're putting tension on the abdominals. You're contracting them. You're contracting. But see, here's the thing. They're all connected. Next gets into the shoulder blade scoop because you can't properly brace your core without first setting your shoulder blades in a position, or else you're going to round in the upper back. So number 2 is a shoulder blade scoop position, which is, we got to do this one. Okay. So you're going to get your, go with your left hand. You can mirror me. Everyone at home do this too. So what you're going to do now is you're going to sit upright as much.
You guys can watch this on YouTube, by the way.
Oh, good. You're sitting upright. Now what you're going to do is you're going to get your pinky, and I want you to turn your pinky up to the sky without allowing your back to arch. You want to brace your core, right? Your core is in positions tight. Good. Turn the pinky up to the spine. Now what you're going to do is shrug your shoulder up, Pull your shoulder all the way, the blade in the back, pull it all the way down. To go down further, like Max is going to do, add a little elbow bend in there like I am, a little elbow bend. Now pull your lower tip of your shoulder blade down as far as you can. You've got more in you. Come on. Shrug it up. Watch me, Max. All the way down. Keep pulling down. Keep going. Keep go. Good.
Jesus.
Hold. Now from that position, push your elbow tip forward towards me. Okay. Now further pull down in that position. Okay. Hold that contraction. Do you feel that's a semi-scoop? That's like a half a scoop. You should feel contraction of the left middle back region. Do you feel that there?
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know what that is, but it's like, yeah.
You should be getting lower trapezius and your serratus, which are two deep muscles. But what this shoulder blade scoop is, this is the number 2 movement. This is the position to learn. This is the beginning or the end of every arm movement. It's the beginning of a press. It's the end of a pull down. It's the beginning of a push up. It's the end of a row.
Wow.
It's the end of a rotator cuff strength exercise. It's a shoulder press. It's the beginning. I mentioned beginning of a shoulder press. It's the beginning of a punch, and it's the end of a punch when you return. It's a magical position to start and return to that turns on, that pulls the shoulder blade. Because most people with their shoulder blade, they're going to allow it to roll up and in, and it causes impingement, which is shoulder impingement is the number 1 shoulder injury. It's like 90% of shoulder injuries are this impingement. Wow. What do surgeons do? They don't even assess the structure or function of your body. They just go, oh, it's pinching. They're just going to cut off a big chunk of bone in there so it doesn't pinch with your current posture. And that's not solving anything.
Right.
But though I am a proponent of surgeons sometimes. So shoulder blade scoop, super. Once you start doing it, you're going to do it all day. It feels so good.
Yeah, I like it. It was definitely a unique feeling. It felt like I was stretching kind of everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like a one for all. It'll stretch the tight neck muscles. So that muscle right there. So when I say top movements, I'm like, you get that shoulder blade scoop, and then you're going to do push movements, pull movements, overhead press movements, pull down movements. Those are the movements of the arm. So we don't have to do all these crazy exercises. We got to do pushes and pulls. And then now with the hip hinge, core brace is in the center position of all, because it has to be braced or everything else falls apart. So then number 3, we have a head pivot, which is simple. So I want you to sit up here, Max, and everyone at home too. Okay, a head pivot is touch the very back of your head underneath the base of your skull. Feel that right there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There is an aligned position. There's so much research, and it's so ridiculous to even attempt to go against the research that shows that the further your head is forward, the more weight is on your neck. And also, it prevents full range of motion. So for full range of motion of your neck right now and everyone at home, so simply draw your chin back maximally. But now you're going to hold that chin drawn back. Basically, the point in the back of your head, you're going to pull out all the way backward. Now what you're going to do is when you turn your head to the right, continue drawing your chin back towards that point. Draw your chin back in there. Keep turning. Draw it back in again. It's a retracted position. And you know what the best place to train this is? Your fucking car.
In your car.
Head rest. It's to rest your head. It's the best place to do it. So that pivot position aligns your head up with the rest of your body. So when you're doing push-ups, planks, pulls, you're aligning your head. The key movements, right? Pushes, pulls, squats, deadlifts, rotations. That's all the body really needs to do to live an active life. Every sport requires some more, specificity. Then you have the hip hinge. So the hip hinge is, we mentioned that one. That's going to be in the gym. You might know that as deadlift. That's the most popular hip hinge. Also, it's so incredibly important. Everyone needs to learn how to deadlift. There's people that aren't deadlifting because of pain. They need to learn how to redo it because it's part of life. It's bending. How are you going to pick up your kid?
Are there some people for whom, though, that like the straight bar deadlift just doesn't work?
If you are in control of how your body moves, you can make any piece of equipment work.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like a straight, like the body doesn't move in straight lines.
No, if the shin's in the way, it's very unnatural. How often are you going to pick something up that requires, it's going to hit both of your shins in the front?
Exactly.
Never. No. So the deadlift is not necessary. You can do it with dumbbells. You can do it with a kettlebell.
I've been curious about the hex bar deadlift, but I haven't done it just because I'm too lazy to set it up when I hit the gym.
I just sold mine.
You did?
I bought it and then I just got rid of it because it's, I'm 6'4", 225 for people who don't know. People always go, you look a lot taller.
You do. You are a lot taller than, yeah.
Who always says that. So but the point is the hex bar. Now I'm not like, yes, I lift and lifting. I work with athletes and CrossFit athletes, but you get into like the technicalities of the lift. That's not my thing. But the hex bar, The hex bar is a combination of a deadlift and a squat. It kind of combines those two. It's very difficult to do a hex bar deadlift, at least from my experience, with a relative straight knee. But the concept of the hex bar is that you're not, the bar's not jamming into your shins, forcing you to go into forcing you to like grit out proper technique doing it.
Yeah.
Kettlebells are great with that. Anything you're bending. I mean, a reverse deadlift is easy. If you're laying on your back and bring your legs straight up to you, if you're laying on your back, keep your legs straight, bring your legs straight up to the sky and lower them. That's a deadlift.
I can't do that without my butt coming off the ground.
Oh, you go up.
My legs I can probably only lift my legs to like, I don't know, 45, 50 degrees off the.
So your hamstrings, do you have tight hamstrings?
Possibly. Yeah, probably.
If you can, usually the straight leg lift will stop with the hamstrings, just like the deadlift will. It would lead me to believe that your deadlift is also limited.
Yeah.
You have to put more knee bend into your deadlift than most people do.
Yeah.
And you know what? I need to tell your audience something out there. You can live perfectly fine, perfectly strong, pain-free with tight hamstrings. It's people that don't understand their body because they have tight hamstrings and they go to deadlift, right? They see everyone else bending at their hips. So they do it, but movement doesn't come from their hip anymore. It comes from their low back bending.
But is it like, don't some people just have like short hamstrings?
Yeah, sure.
The same way that like,
Sure.
some people have like really short biceps, like
Sure.
really like apple shaped biceps, and some have really long.
Our videographer, he suffered a herniation, and he's been a friend of mine. He actually have two houses on a property, and he lives on the lower one. He rents it. And when I met him, he had a disc herniation surgery, and he's the tightest hamstrings I've ever seen on a human being. They only go to like 30 degrees down. That's it. So whenever he deadlifts, we just stack up weight on the ground, like put plates in. So he's only going down to a certain amount.
Wow.
Yeah, but you just need to know, like he knows that his deadlift stops when his hamstrings get tight.
Yeah.
That's over.
Huh.
The rest has to come from the knees.
Right.
That's like what people miss. They go, oh, I have tight hamstrings, my back hurts. No, you have tight hamstrings, and you're not aware of how that's causing the imbalances up the chain, and the problems are coming up the chain.
So you do them. You're 6'4". You're a deadlift fan.
Oh, I love deadlift.
I don't think I've ever done a proper deadlift in my life. Partially because I'm like scared of them.
We should do them before you go.
Yeah, I'm down.
Do you have a bar?
No.
We'll do it without a bar.
I have a kettlebell.
We'll do that.
All right.
We'll spend time. But yeah, I'm proud. I actually just went last week. I hit the 1,000-pound club. So it was.
Jesus.
But the problem is my weights in my house. I only have 20-pound increments because I hit a 275 deadlift and I missed 295 by like a little bit. So I'm like, okay. And then I did a 420-pound dead, and then I did a 325 squat. It was like 1020. I was proud of myself for doing it. 39 years old. You know what happened, honestly? I made some posts. We posted on bodybuilding. Do you remember bodybuilding.com?
Yeah, of course.
So they reached out to us to make some content for them, which I was super honored because I grew up with that magazine. It's like the center. So I was like Men's Health, like those are like the staples for us. Right?
Same, yeah,
right.
yeah, 100%.
That's our stuff.
Yeah.
And so I make it for bodybuilding, and this guy, I get a comment on there. It goes, this guy taking advice from him, it doesn't look like he's ever lifted a day in his life. And then so I'm like, at the time I was like 60 pounds away from my 1,000-pound club. I actually was motivated. I was like motivated. So I did it. And then I go to message him. And of course it was just some troll account with no followers.
Dude, people online they can be such assholes.
They're not even humans, dude. It's just the internet talking.
Yeah, it is.
I don't even know if it's human. It's not human behavior.
Just belching up negativity.
It's not even like no one has ever says that to me in person.
Right.
Ever.
They wouldn't. You're 6'4".
No one has ever said anything like that in person, but they'll say it online. They just type it. But it still affects me. Like I don't like hearing it.
No.
Because I'm like, people are giving me shit. Oh, where's the science and research? I'm like, there's like, I don't know how many tens of millions of people that are addicted to opioid medication because they're in pain management. Like, those are the people. Even if my research is off by like 4 years on this, what I'm showing them is still going to help them more than that fucking medication they're on.
Of course. God.
Like, let's focus on the big issue here.
I feel like that could be a cool segment of the show. Like what Jimmy Kimmel does. Sometimes he'll read like mean tweets, or he'll have his like celebrity guests read mean tweets.
Oh.
That people say, like they'll have like Josh Groban go on, like he doesn't give a fuck what people think about him. Like negative Twitter comments. He's got better things to do.
That'd be fun though.
But just like imagine reading like the mean comments.
It'd be very childish of us, but I think it'd be fun and engaging for the audience.
Yeah.
I think they'd like that drama.
Yeah. I think so. Maybe, or maybe not. I don't know. Let me know. So strengthening the glutes should be a primary focus.
There's one movement left. I'm working on the name for it. So we went over, you said, what should everyone be doing? People should be learning how to scoop their shoulder blades. And a lot of this stuff, guys, just go and Move You Instagram. It's just, I've done 1,000 videos on this. Just go back and find them. But scoop the shoulder blades, you scoop it, then learn to push, like push-ups, rows. Those are fantastic. 2 great exercises. And then you press overhead down. But the shoulder blade scoop is the beginning. That's the actual key movement that exists within all. Then you have the core brace, aligning your spine and taking a big breath in through your diaphragm and then tightening your ab muscles around a big breath. It'll decompress your spine, like decompression. And so that's number 2, core brace, and that's applied to movements, right? It's not a move exercise, it's applied to exercise. It's a skill. Then you have your head pivot, which is the ability to line your skull up, your ears over your shoulders, and then turn on that axis. Then you have your hip hinge, which is the ability for you to bend. That's where we were, bend down. But there also, the hip hinge doesn't neglect the rising back up again. So that's to maximally strengthen your glutes and hamstrings. I mean, rising out of the bottom of a hip hinge, the bottom of a deadlift upwards, when done properly, is the glutes and the hamstrings. Those 2 take first place for the muscle recruitment. So hip hinge, down and up, fantastic move, and also a move of life. And then finally, you have one last move. And I called it ground force, and I still am okay with that. But it's essentially, I'm working on a little bit better of a name. It's a spiraling. So if you're taking 10,000 steps a day, you have 10,000 times every day at least where you only have 1 foot on the ground. That's it. And so there's a skill that I created that accommodate for that, and it's called ground force. And what it is when you're doing a lunge, which is a fantastic exercise, a single leg RDL, you're doing running, walking, is ground force is when you step your let's say you step your right leg forward, you learn to grip the ground with the bottom of your feet, actually lift your arch up with your muscles. Everybody out there has the muscles in their feet to contract and to lift their arch without an arch support. Everybody has those muscles. You weren't born without them, maybe a few cases. Lift your arch muscles up. Then to align your ankle is like a boat. It can roll out this way, or it rolls out, it rolls in. You align in the middle. Align your ankle in the middle, grip the ground with your feet. And then comes now the knee. The knee position is actually, to put it even better, then ground force is actually applied when you outwardly rotate your thigh. So turning your thigh outward, spiraling your thigh outward without moving your foot on the ground. What it does is it creates a ground force. It creates a tension on the ground. It creates a spiraling effect that actually further lifts your arch. Your glute is the second primary muscle that lifts your arch up. So the outward spiraling is created from the glute max muscle. And along with outward spiraling, there's some movement where you pull your thigh outward. You're pushing your thighs out when you squat. That's done by the out glute muscle. But I'm talking about the glute max. People forget that it outwardly rotates the thigh. That's half its job. It's totally neglected. People are just like squats, deadlifts, booty kicks. It outwardly rotates the thigh. So, but when that thigh outwardly rotates, especially when you only have 1 foot on the ground, you create this solid structure. The arch is lifted, the toes are spread, the ankle's in alignment. It's not going to roll out, it's not going to roll in, it's right in the middle. You got muscles to hold it in place. Your knee is in alignment. Your knee, people are blowing meniscus and ACLs and MCLs and PCLs and all of this. Well, this knee is designed to be stable. It's not designed to flop around side to side, left to right. But so that outward action of the glute, what it does is it holds that knee in position, and then it allows you then to, but see, that has to be done with a core brace to align your pelvis. But that position with the lunge, with that, provides such a solid stabilization pattern for the body that you now not only strengthen your quads, but you strengthen your quads, your hamstrings, your glutes, your foot muscles, your lower leg, your ankle muscles, all at once, doing more in less time. Those are the five movements that you'll see those up and coming on Move You. But those are the 5 that I believe are the future of how we protect ourselves from future injury.
Wow.
And come out of injury. It's the same thing. Protecting from injury is simply being proactive and taking steps forward. If you're injured, you have to take the steps to get to the position that you would be in if you were to go proactive.
Yeah.
Right? And then take those similar steps. And the further you are away, the more work you put into being proactive is the further you are away from injury itself.
Wow. I love it, dude.
You love it?
I love it.
Do you really?
Yeah.
You following this?
I'm following. 5 moves, 5 simple moves.
5 simple movements. 5 movements. I mean, I think I tried to take it from 8. There's 8 now, 2 to 5.
It's simple, but it's not easy, you know? I would love for you to show me how to like,
Let's do a deadlift before we leave.
yeah, we'll do that.
Oh, you love it. The challenge with the deadlift is actually so much more complex than people make it. So the deadlift, if we combine those movements, those 5 movements, to do a proper deadlift, many people like me, I got thrown in the gym when I was 15 football. I just started deadlifting. People learn to deadlifting. And that works for some people. And some people, they injure themselves or they have pain and they don't deadlift anymore. Those people need to start before the deadlift because there's 3 skills that build the deadlift. All of these skills that I've talked about, you got the deadlift as a core brace position. Your spine, during a deadlift, your spine is not designed to round forward or overly arch. Your spine is designed to find your neutral position at the top. Take a big breath in through your stomach, contract your abdominal muscles to decompress your spine because there is significant load in the low back in a deadlift. It challenges the low back. It's challenging. It's not dangerous if you're doing it right. So then that core brace is applied, okay? But if you don't know how to hip hinge, your body will just fold forward out of the core brace. So then you have the second skill is the hip hinge. Now, holding the core brace, your whole upper body folds forward, all the motion coming from the hip, ball, and socket joint. And that movement's over whenever the hamstrings lengthen. And then from that position, now people need to apply ground force to bend the knee, to allow the knees to bend over top of the toes by twisting the feet outward. And when that occurs, now somebody is in proper alignment deadlift, and not only in proper alignment, they're going to find new strength. And they're durable. So it's a 3-part skill for the deadlift. Very common. So if people are hurting themselves with deadlift, don't beat yourself up over it. You just need to go back and fix those individual skills and you'll get right back to it.
I don't deadlift. I don't back squat anymore.
None?
No,
What do you do for fitness?
I do a lot. I do, for my leg, I'll tell you what my leg day consists of these days. I'm doing, lunges, like, holding a kettlebell. I think I'm at like 34 kilograms or something at this point.
Holding in front of you.
Yeah, holding in front of me
Yeah.
and doing lunges. So I'll do like a few really intense sets of that, 3 or 4 sets of that. And then I'll do goblet squats, but with a dumbbell. I find goblet squats to be a lot more comfortable when I'm using a dumbbell as opposed to a kettlebell, which causes my like shoulders to come in around forward.
Kettlebell, it's good, but it's like 1900 Olympics. There's better ways to do for a lot of exercises.
I'm not into kettlebells. I find that kettlebells work like well for lunges for me. But whenever I can use a dumbbell instead of a kettlebell, that's what I'm doing.
I never thought about that. Appreciate it because the wider the dumbbell, the more it pulls your shoulder blades together.
Well, just think about it. It's a lot. You're a lot more like open when you hold a dumbbell like this, like with your hands underneath one of the one of the weight sides. Then when you've got to hold the 2 sides of a kettlebell, and then you're like, it just makes you prone to like rounding your shoulders forward.
It totally does.
Yeah, it's the worst.
I'm gonna do a video over that. I appreciate it. I'll give you a shout out.
Give me a shout out. Would appreciate that. And then after those 2, then I go to the what's that like booty machine called where you get in and then you like a hip thrust machine.
Hip thrust machine.
Yeah.
More details.
It's like a thing you put a belt around. You're in this like contraption you put a belt around. I put like 3 45s on each side.
Yeah.
So it lets you move a lot of weight. And you're just like doing a hip thrust. Like, I don't know. It's called a...
Are you kicking back with your legs?
No, you're not. It's not a kickback.
I'm drawing a blank because I know it if I saw it.
It's I don't know what the technical term for it is. I think it's a hip thrust. I mean, just...
Let me see.
Yeah, I think I can...
So you work out you go to a gym around here.
Yeah.
You walk there?
No, I don't walk there.
There's gotta be someplace close.
People do it with like dumbbells, but this is just a machine.
Let me see.
It's a glute drive. I'm pretty sure that's it.
Oh, okay. I got you. Oh, yeah. Your feet are planted on the thing, but you push and the upper body goes upwards.
Not your upper body. Your upper body is pretty static. Yeah. I mean, the main force, the main thrust is like you're driving through your hips.
Okay, got it. So you're doing this for hip. You're doing this to replace.
And none of this exacerbates my low back pain.
God,
it's been like years and years of like trial and error to try to find what I can do to strengthen and build my legs and my glutes and my quads and my hamstrings.
Without the 2 big ones.
Without the 2 big ones.
Right.
Because I find that back squats tend to aggravate my low back, and I'm just not comfortable enough doing a deadlift just with the form. I just don't think that I just don't know how to do it.
You don't have the technique with that.
I don't have the technique down. And it's a lot of force on the lower back, and I haven't pinpointed the source of my low back issue, but it's in that neighborhood. So
talk from high force to low force in the low back. with squatting, lowest force in the low back is a weight held in front of your chest because it keeps your spine upright.
That's the lowest force?
That's the lowest force with weight.
Yeah.
In a squat movement. So that's going to be you standing a squat, sumo squat, upright squat, holding a kettlebell. And now that's the lowest force in the low back. It does provide some downward compression force, but it doesn't cause muscular force. Number 2 is going to be the back squat. And then number 3, the most force is the deadlift.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I usually have people starting back up after they're fixing their body, after they get off the ground, into like even holding a 10-pound dumbbell way out in front of them doing a squat, because it keeps the spine pretty upright.
Yeah. So I figured it out. Figured out what works for me. But I'd be down to experiment with some like light weights to get the technique down.
Maybe we make a couple videos after this.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Dude, this was fun. I also I remembered like one of the videos that you've done that actually changed the way I sleep. It was a video that you did a while back where no, seriously, it was from you. And it changed. I sleep like this now. I've slept like this for years because of you.
Great.
I put the pillows on my side.
Oh.
Yeah.
On your back. You're a side sleeper.
I'm a stomach sleeper.
Oh, you do the wedge underneath one side of them.
Both sides.
Oh, you do both sides.
Yeah. Didn't you do a video about this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Most everybody
so this is from you.
talks about side sleeping.
I sleep on my stomach, but I sleep with 4 pillows now because of you. I sleep with one under my head, one on top of my head, which I know is weird, but that's how I sleep. And then I sleep with 2 pillows like flanking me, just delicately kind of like coming underneath and pushing my hips up a little bit.
And the reason why that works for many people is because the worst position to sleep is on your stomach, because your head is literally turned 90 degrees for 8 hours straight.
I love it though. Okay. I'm not going to learn. So, I'm not going to be able to fall asleep on my back.
Exactly. So what I do, it's like I just try to help people sleep the best they can in that position. So the higher you can bring on your stomach, the higher you can bring everything except your head, the better. Because the higher your body is, the less your head's cranked in the night.
Right.
So that's why underneath your hips, that's helpful. But also, underneath the hips can take pressure off your back too. Was it tension on your back? Is that why?
It's to relieve pressure on because sometimes if I'm just laying flat, I wake up in the morning and I have like low back pain.
Yeah.
Or even as I'm laying there, it starts to like ache a little bit. But this helps. This has helped.
So I laugh because all the videos I've done, like 2,300 of them or something, the sleeping videos, everyone is like, it's changed my life. I'm just like, seriously, the sleep, and also car posture videos. But side sleeping, the most popular one, and this is the one that's changed my life. Okay, and all side sleepers out there need to do this. Once you do this once you do it and feel it, you're going to keep that way for the rest of your life, just like how you did. You sleep on your side. If you're, just to say you're a single person, if you're same amount of pillows, if you're a couple, you just need 2 king size pillows. But if you're by yourself, you got a head pillow. And here's the rule. The softer the mattress, the less height you want on your head pillow. Because the softer the mattress, your shoulder sinks into it. So if you have a super soft mattress, you want a thin pillow for your head. So you lay on your side, you get your head pillow. Then what you need is the knee pillow. But the knee pillow needs to be thick because your knees actually have to spread quite a bit to take tension off the hips. So super thick one. Like even put 2 pillows in one case.
Wow.
You got the knee.
Thick.
What's that?
Super thick.
Super thick. Then you have the magical pillow, which is called the wedgie. So the problem with side sleeping is that you literally sleep on directly pushing down into one shoulder. It's just biomechanically, it's just your body's, it's like driving your car up and just pushing into the house a little bit every night and just put it in park with a little bumper bend on it every time. So to do that is, side sleepers, you're not going to sleep on your back well. So what do? You compromise. You put a thick pillow behind your back on your side and you lean back into a little bit, called a wedgie pillow. Okay. And then lastly is a huggy pillow. It's the softest pillow you have, and you hug this thing. And I got to give a shout out to Sleepgram. So you got to check these guys out. These pillows, they're adjustable pillows. So you buy them and you can take the slivers out of them and mix match to create height. So what I've done is you need a super thick pillow in between the knees and the back. So I take some of my slivers out of my head pillow and shove them into my knee and my back one to give it super firm. And it is like the magical combo. So it's 4 pillow minimal for side sleeping, but it'll change your life. If you really want an additional one, you put one underneath your hand so your elbow's not hyperextended. So, I mean, that's getting really fancy. I do that though.
And do people who sleep on their backs need anything? Because that's generally regarded as being the best position
it's pretty good. Generally, people in their back sleep with too much pillow underneath their neck. So, and the challenge that exists even with cars is people over time, it seems like people's head position keeps going further and further forward. You look at even new cars now, the headrests are built to accommodate for shitty head posture. So you actually are going to have to constantly fight head position for the rest of your life because of technology, school, like you have to fight it and keep your head pushing back. So my point is with that one, generally a thinner pillow under the head on your back. I fall asleep. I wake up my back. So I like a thin one on my, but I like a little cushion around my ears so I can know it's a pillow there. But most importantly on the back, especially if you're getting back issues, is you need a very thick pillow under your knees. So I've done angles on this one. You need at least a 15-degree angle underneath your knees. So 15 degrees from the bottom of the hip upwards. Your legs have to be up 15 degrees at least to take some of the curve out of your low back. And when you're laying flat on your back, it puts excess of curve in your low back. It can. And so that can cause people a little pain. So you want to put a lot of pillows underneath your knees. Like you need a super thick pillow, like yoga bolster.
Wow.
Yeah. That's the best way to back sleep. That's how I sleep too. I sleep side like that. And I sleep my back like that.
Hey, if you like that video, you need to check out this one here, and I'll see you there.
Trying to bridge the gap between what's good for me versus also my understanding of what might be good for the environment, right? So instead of looking at this situation where people say meat is evil, this and that, I'm like, that's not really the case. Meat can be super health promoting, but for me right now at this age, can I be a little bit more kind of deliberate with my eating strategies? So either focus, I'm basically a flexitarian. So depending upon where I am and the quality of fish, I might eat that. But for the most part, I'm trying to just understand how to get more plant foods in my diet. And then eventually down the line, I think I'll probably reintroduce meat just as I age. But I'm really looking at it through kind of a mix of like reducing my water footprint, because I think that's super important locally.